Okay.
I second that.
All right. I do too. Okay, good. Well, my name's Gary. I've been here at Glass Crafters. It'll be 2 years and a couple months, and I had some interest in Mosaic prior to getting here, but really my interest in Mosaic really blossomed once I got here. So I haven't been doing it all that long, but I have kind of immersed myself in it over the last 2 years. For the first 15 years that I was doing stained glass and leaded work, I said, I'm not even going to do mosaics. I don't have the patience for that. And I can't tell you how much I have fallen in love with it. So I'll share with you what I know and what I picked up over the last couple of years, and ask me questions, and if I don't know the answer, I'll figure it out for you and get back to you later, okay? So what I have learned, most importantly, is that if you're doing a mosaic for indoor use, you want to use weld bond. If you're doing mosaic for outdoor use, you want to use a thin set. And a thin set is just a mixture of sand, adhesive cement, and a processing agent. And you mix it up just like you do grout. If you've ever grouted, you mix it up just like that. And you lay that down. But we'll get into that in a second. So basically, weld bond for indoors, thin set for outdoors. There are a couple of exceptions. We'll talk about those. For indoor substrates, good substrates for indoor use, wood, and this is just a block of wood. I like to use cradled artist panels, and these are cradle boards. These come like this. I got this online from Cheap Joe's Art Supply. It's just a board, a flat, a thinner board with some backing. I like the depth that it gives me for my mosaics. I like a big bulky look. That's just me. They make them thinner. This is a mosaic I did recently. My dad when he was like 16, and this is a cradle board too, much smaller. The thing you need to be careful about when you're doing a mosaic on cradle board is that you are working on a thin board that's applied to these stronger headers or backers. And when you're doing something this large, and this is about as large as I would go with this. This is a piece I did of my grandmother. This is about as large of a piece that I would go with this, because if you have to take a piece off or you have to really push on it, you are going to flex it, and you don't want to flex this board too much. So this is about as big as I would go with a cradled board. Does that make sense?
How thick is the fascia piece, please?
It's about 1/4 of an inch. It's probably much like this. Now this is pretty. This is I think MDF. But this is pretty stable. Pretty stable, so it's really hard to kind of flex it. So I'm going to guess that this is a cheaper version of this.
Actually, from this side, it looks like it might even be thinner than that.
Well, this is hard to, oh, yeah. Yeah. This looks like it might even be 1/8 of an inch.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you wanted,
right.
you could cut another piece and add it inside
Yes,
of it.
absolutely. You definitely could do
Yeah.
that. Or if I wanted to take, this is an 8x8, if I wanted to attach this as an additional piece to an 8x8, I could do that. So if you're going to use a wood like this, or a cradle board for indoor use, you want to seal it before you start mosaicing on
Is
it.
there a better wood to use? Oak versus...
No, I haven't found that that's true. I think as long as you're going to seal it, it's
Right.
good.
Okay.
Some woods are more porous than others.
Right.
And what you're doing by sealing it is when you apply weld bond, this is going to suck all the moisture out of the weld bond if you don't seal it, and that is going to make your Tessera pop off. So you want to seal it so that the board is not sucking the moisture out of the weld bond. That's all you're doing. So you want to take a mixture of 1 part weld bond to 1 part water. So all you need to do, 1 part weld bond to 1 part water, and brush it on all over. Now, when I do a portrait mosaic, I like to have a dark background. Sometimes I grout my pieces, sometimes I don't. I grouted this piece. This one I did not grout. So if you get up close to it, you can see the wood behind it. And the mistake I made on this one is that I didn't give it a darker background. And that's what I should have done. That's what I would have preferred to do looking back. Okay? So what I would do and what I would suggest is I got this paint at Lowe's. It's one of those little cheap samples for $3.99 in a gray color. Painted this on. Then once I have that color, go ahead. It's probably fine. The primer, the paint, is probably going to seal that wood enough for your weld bond. But just to be safe, go ahead. On top of this, do your mixture 50-50 weld bond water. Brush it on, and you're gonna be golden at that point. Okay?
Are you sealing the backside as well?
No, not so much. If it's for indoor use, I'm just worried about the sections that I'm going to mosaic. This is going to be against the wall. I'm not going to worry about it so much. Good question. Thank you very much. Wood. That's wood.
So the background, though, you have paper. You're saying you painted dark underneath that?
Yeah, I did, because I didn't know. I didn't decide to do the paper until I got finished with it. So I was originally going to do glass the whole way. And then when I got finished, I got here and I went, I want to try something different. I just want to try something different. So it was an experiment, and
You did the paper after the mosaic?
I did the paper after the mosaic. So basically, I laid the paper on top of it, then I pushed where the creases are,
Wow.
so I could take the paper away and kind of take my X-Acto knife and follow that crease, and then lay it back in. So, but if I didn't like it, the good news is, I put a little weld bond on it, and I put glass over it, and I just take my weld bond, and I could do that now if I wanted to. But I kind of like the way it turned out.
Looks great.
Yeah. So I'm happy with it, and hopefully she's up there going, okay, yeah.
But would it matter that that's latex paint, right? If you use there, if you had acrylic paint?
I don't think it matters as long as you seal it again on top of it with the 50-50 water weld bond. Okay? So that's wood. Any questions on wood? Okay. So I'm going to put these off to the side. And I'm going to talk about styrofoam. Now this, before we switch off from the wood, this is MDF. I would go ahead and seal this the same way, 50-50 water. This looks like I got this at Michael's. It looks like it's already been treated. I don't think this is going to be needing to treat it, but what I would do is I would test it. I would put some beads of weld bond on it and see if it's going to scrape off. If I scrape it off, if this is just like a coating on the wood that is not very strong, that's what I would do with this. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Any questions? Good. Styrofoam. So I'm not going to do this whole thing because there's an excellent video from our friends at Mosaics, and that's i-c-mosaics.com. Luann and Wallace Weeks over there. Luann has done a beautiful video showing you exactly how to prepare a styrofoam ball for mosaic use. And once you do that, you can set this out in your garden. You can use it indoors, indoor, outdoor, it doesn't matter. It's going to be beautiful. So, and what you do is you take this fiberglass mosaic mesh, and I don't have any scissors. Yes, I do. And you first wrap, you get a strip about 3 inches. I'm not going to do this whole thing because Luann does it so much better than I can. You wrap it. You really stick it down good. This is a sticky mesh. And then you're going to cut it where you need to, if you have good scissors. And you fold it over and onto itself. So you get rid of all of these sticky uppies that are happening on this. You're going to put another square mosaic mesh on this side. And again, you're going to cut and fold over all the sticky uppies. Sticky uppies being the technical term.
Now, ordinarily, the sticky side is the top side for the
Yes,
tessera.
right.
So you've reversed this.
We reversed it,
Okay.
exactly. That just helps you to stick it down onto the ball. So you're going to cut it. And once you have it covered in this, and you're going to want it as flat as you can. I'm just doing this really quickly just to give you an idea. Again, I see Mosaics, great video. Then you take thin set. And you mix your thin set a little bit thinner than you normally would. Thin set likes to be mixed at a, and we'll talk about thin set in a little bit. It likes to be mixed at about like a fudge brownie consistency. You're going to go to a pancake consistency for this application. You're going to take a spatula or a popsicle stick. You're going to apply it. You're going to set it up on a little, there's a, you can use a Cool Whip container. You can use anything you want, a margarine container to set it on there. Spread your thin set all around. Let it sit for a little bit. Flip it over. Finish it on this side. And then you're going to have a nice surface to work on with your tessera. And if you need to file it, if you have some of this sticking up, you can take a file. You can file it down a little bit. But this works really well, and again, indoor-outdoor application. The thin set makes it impermeable to the weather. Questions there?
Do you have a preferable thin set?
No, I don't have a preferable thin set.
When I asked at Lowe's, they told me mortar is thin set as opposed to cement, but I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, we recently did a project for an address plaque outdoors, and that's another substrate that I'll show you in a couple seconds. Weedy board is a substrate that you can use outdoors. And I used a mortar specifically for glass and tile that I got at the local home center. And it worked very well. So thin set or a glass and tile mortar will work well for you. Okay. Where was I going with that? Styrofoam. Any questions on the styrofoam? And you don't have to do a styrofoam ball. You can get one of those columns, large columns, and make a column with Corinthian, whatever you want to do. You can do some fantastic things with styrofoam.
So once the thin set has set on the wall,
Yep.
and now you're going to apply your tessera,
yeah.
what adherent are you using?
Well, if it's going outdoors, I would use thin set on thin
More
set.
thin set.
Yep. If it's going indoors, you can try the weld bond. I would test it first. Stick a little piece, a couple pieces, let it sit, see if it's going to come off. But I think weld bond should be fine if you're doing indoor work, or if you're going to have it indoors. Good. Glass. Now, the tricky thing about doing tessera onto glass, and it can be beautiful. If you're using some cathedral glass on glass, they can be absolutely gorgeous. So if I wanted to stick a candle in here and I wanted to put tessera, clear cathedral tessera all the way around this, it would really be lovely. You want to be careful though, because weld bond will not really work so well on, and this is one of the exceptions, on glass. Now I've heard a couple things. E6000 works really well on glass, really well on glass, and then I've heard, but I have not tried it, that clear nail polish is a good sticky for cathedral glass onto glass, or for glass to glass. I have not tried it. I don't know how well it works.
That's what I heard they used for those hanging ones by the window.
Some of them, a couple of them, not all of them, but yeah, yes.
What's the definition of tessera?
Okay, I'm sorry.
anything that
Okay,
goes
very
on?
good. But no, that's an
Sorry.
excellent question. Tessera, a tessera or tesserae, I think is the plural, is any item that you have that's going to go on to, that you're using in a mosaic. So in this here, this is tessera. One tessera here, the whole thing. I use many tesserae or tesserae. I forget what the
It
plural
could be
is.
glass or anything.
It could be anything.
Okay.
You know, you've seen some artists who have used Barbie dolls, and the Barbie dolls is tessera. It's in a mosaic. That's what it is. So it's anything used to attach to a substrate to make a mosaic. Good question. Sorry, I assumed that you knew what we were doing. So, thank you. So, glass. The tricky thing about glass, when you're doing mosaic with glass, you want to make sure that your adhesive covers the entire base of that piece of tessera. Because if it doesn't, and you do a black grout on it, and that grout goes under the tessera, it's going to be messy, and it's not going to be attractive, and you're going to have a mess on it. So just make sure that you have a complete adhesion between the glass and the tessera. Does that make sense? And I would suggest an E6000. We have some beautiful pieces out in the store that were done. A piece of glass was installed into a frame, and then the tessera applied, grouted. They make beautiful window pieces.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, but if you look at those, it looks like there's like a little circle.
There is a. Some of them do have a little dot, and you can see the glue. You can see the glue dot, right?
Yeah.
You just want to be careful that you have complete adhesion
Okay.
all the way around. I did have a friend up in the Boston area who did what she called spirit windows, and she would take old windows out of old houses, you know, with the mullions and the whole bit, and she would just simply place her tessera down on the glass panes, just place them. And then she would take 2-part epoxy, marine epoxy, mix it up, and pour it into it. So, you know, if it moved, that was part of the process. If it didn't move, okay. But that became the grout, basically. And then what she'd do is she'd flip it on the other side and take a permanent marker and create the lines in between. And they were really beautiful. But it was somewhat, you know, it was different, very different. And they were just as beautiful when she didn't apply the painted markers or the permanent marker lines as grout lines. But it's another way to do it. Any questions on glass? Tile. Tile, there's really no preparation. If you have a piece of tile that you want to mosaic, there's really no preparation of that. If it's going outdoors, use your thin set. If it's going indoors, use your weld bond.
You mean tile as a substrate, not as the tessera?
Right, exactly. If you're using so here's one prepared E. So this is just a tile, and weld bond will work fine on this.
Is that the coarse side of a ceramic tile?
No, this is the smooth side.
Smooth side.
That's what we used. We didn't put anything on it. We used
Weld
well,
bond.
because it's for indoors. For
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So that's tile. It's easy.
I have found out though through experiment, because I've done all kinds of stuff, that there's, like if you break plates and tiles and stuff that some are more porous, then those are the ones you should not use outside,
Okay.
because those are the ones that absorb water and stuff and
right.
they pop off. So there's indoor tile, outdoor tile.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that a little bit with this terracotta in just a second. And that's next. Here we go. So if you're going to take a terracotta pot and you're going to want to mosaic this for indoor use, you want to prepare it for indoor use, again, with your 50-50 water well bond. 50-50 water well bond all the way around it. And that will seal it for using well bond for your tessera. If you're going to be doing, if you want this to be stored outdoors for a plant or whatever, totally different option. It's a little bit more complicated. You want to soak this overnight in water. You want to, when you're working with it, you want to get a very wet rag and put it inside, and I don't have a rag large enough. But you want a rag that's this full size, and then you can apply while it's very wet and the pores are all soaked. You can apply your tessera with your weld bond. Best way to do this with your thin set. Thank you for going. No.
That's indoor.
Thank you. With your thin set. I have a little bit of thin set in here. I'm not going to do it right now, but we want to mix it up to your whatever consistency the manufacturer says. If it's, mostly you want to go with a fudge brownie consistency. Then, if you want to, I've seen that, and this works really well. Put your thin set in a cup that's lined with a baggie. Pull it out and make like a little pastry. Cut a little, snip a little hole right here, and then you can just take your tessera, move a little bit, apply it. There you go.
So saying while it's still wet, you can do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So have everything ready before you do that. All your little tessera pieces
Yeah,
cut and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. You should have everything ready to go. Be prepared. Yeah.
Wait, so do you seal it with the 50-50, you just wet it, or do you seal it also? For outside?
For outside, you don't need to seal it with 50-50 water well bond. You're going to soak it in water overnight. You're going to keep it damp from the inside while you're working on it.
And then what about when you're done with the inside?
When you're done, you can remove the rag and you're good to go. Unless I'm not understanding the question. So.
No, that's okay.
Will you seal it? You're not talking about sealing it after you're all done.
No. You certainly can. And again, 50-50 water well bond. No. 5 parts water, 1 part well bond for sealing for outdoor use. Sealing.
I'm talking about after you're done. After you're done grouting your tessera, seal it with that.
Yes. Yes.
You said
Okay.
there's 5 parts water?
5 parts water, 1 part well bond.
Sorry.
That's a good sealer.
I'm suspecting that the reason for that is if you don't do it, if you do it wet, it's at its full expansion.
Right.
And it's better to have it shrink slightly when it dries than have it expand slightly and crack the
Right,
grout.
exactly. On the nose. Okay. Styrofoam, glass, so everything I think I've covered. What I haven't covered yet is my foot. My foot. This is plastic. So you have to be careful with plastic, and you have to do some testing with plastic because you don't know if that plastic is a film, that there's a film on it. It's a very thin film that's been adhered to something deeper in the back. So you need to do some testing. And what I've done here is I've done a test with 3 different adhesives. I have my weld bond in the middle. I have my marine goop on the bottom here, and I have my E6000 on the top. And what I want to do, I did this yesterday, so now is a good time to kind of go in and take something. I did it on a part of my foot where, it's not going to be a huge thing if I screw up somehow. So I'm just going to take something sharp and see how things react to it. And the marine goop came right off, so did the weld bond, but the E6000 is sticking very, very well.
What exactly is the E6000, please?
Yes.
Yeah, here it's like, I mean, we use it all the time. But it's
Very, very
awesome for everything.
Yeah,
It's a little pretty.
I don't know the.
Does it dry quickly?
Not really. You have to cure for 24 hours.
Yeah.
24 hours. Is it ever diluted? Or you
Test
mix it
small
around?
area before use. Apply directly to surfaces to be bonded or repaired. Allow 24 hours for curing. Maximum bond strength may not be reached up until 72 hours.
Does it dry quickly?
Yes.
The marine bond.
And it keeps my hands
Is that for outside?
This is just another adhesive that I had around my house that I was trying. It's just something that I'm testing different things on.
So I bought
I've heard good things about this,
It's
but
awesome. It's awesome.
awesome. Okay.
I bought from Macy's, which is going out of business, a bodice, like
Yeah.
a really cool, funky
Wonderful.
woman's body.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it's made out of. It's like I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if I were to cover it in that mesh, it would be really expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
To put it outside.
So yeah, if you want it outside, I would go this route though.
Yeah.
If you were serious about it,
Yeah.
it might be worth the expense. But it might.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard, but I'm not sure what it's.
Does it have that felty feel on the surface of it, like some of them do? Okay.
It's a different kind of mannequin that I've ever seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outdoor styrofoam. Okay, I think that's all I have for you. Do you have any questions?
You didn't mention, like, is it called tile adhesive? And that you would
Right, the
use-
mortar and tile adhesive.
Right,
Yes.
for-
Well, more glass and tile adhesive. Right.
Well, the type that you would use at home if you were tiling your backsplash is a tile adhesive. Do you ever use that?
I'll show you exactly what I use. For my outdoor, it was a dress plaque that was we made for somebody, and this is what I use.
And that's,
Mosaic and glass tile mortar.
That's mortar. Okay. I mean the kind of adhesive. It's kind of rubbery, actually, that you would put when you're gluing tile to a wall surface, and it actually does have outdoor application, and it's a little rubbery, so it has some expansion with temperature and so
Okay.
forth.
I'm not familiar
It
with
may be silicone
Silicone.
based. It actually is a
I've
silicone
heard
base.
that it expands.
And I used it on a stone for outside.
Yeah.
And so far, it did the job. It sticks very well.
Okay.
And I was wondering, when you have these touchy situations where something might expand, like the ceramic pot, if that might be an application. But if you're not familiar with it.
I'm not familiar with it. Sorry. Yes, Gina.
Mary Frances
Hi, Mary Frances.
wants to know, what did you say to use with the styrofoam?
What do you use with the styrofoam thin set?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is this Mary Frances from? Is this my Mary Frances?
Mary Frances asks again, what about GE silicone?
I don't know about cheese.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
what we're just talking about.
I think they were just talking about it. I'm not familiar with it. It's not something that I have used or worked with. So I cannot answer, but I will try to find out for you and put something on Facebook later about it.
What happens when you're finished? Do you have to seal it?
Yeah, outdoor, if it's going outdoors, I would seal it in by sealing a mosaic for outdoor use. Again, the 5 parts water, 1 part weld bond.
Just over the grout lines, or?
I would do the whole thing. I've done the whole thing.
Not the grout. You don't just use a grout sealer.
No, I do the whole thing.
Really?
With 5 parts. 5 and 1.
So we should buy some weld on.
weld bond is just a wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It sounds like the recipe actually for decoupage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. Okay, I have one more question.
Yes.
I'm in the middle of creating something for a window above my front door, and it's an odd shape. So I've taken wood that I've put together, and I'm wondering, is it okay? Well, this is what I'm planning on doing. I'm sorry, of adhering a piece of either glass or plexiglass to the back of it, and then setting this in the inset, and then gluing glass on the front of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, I'm not following you. But one more time.
So it's not a frame. It doesn't have a groove.
Okay.
It would be just like this, but
Yep.
without that.
Okay.
If I glue a piece of either I have either plexiglass or glass or that,
glass, okay.
this would then be set against the
Yep.
window box.
Right, and you would
And then I
glue on
glue
this side.
on
Yeah,
this
I
side.
think that would be fine. Yeah.
no, glue on that side. Yeah. The only thing is I have to drill into the wall to make sure it's gonna stay there because it's above the door.
Right. How big is it?
36 by 22.
Okay. I start to worry about putting glass on large,
Yeah.
mosaicing large pieces of glass,
Yeah.
because part of the what I know about physics says it's going to strengthen it, but it's also going to make it.
Well, that's why I was thinking plexiglass.
Yeah.
Except
yeah.
plexiglass is really expensive.
I will try to research that for you
Yeah.
and get back to you as well, because
Well, I looked at plexiglass at Lowe's, and it's going to be quite a
it's
chunk.
expensive.
Yeah.
But if you used a thicker piece of glass, like if you would go to a commercial glass company and get like a 1/4 inch piece of glass, that might work better for you. But again, I'll
Yeah.
check it out and post something on Facebook.
Okay. Or else just go the plexiglass route and spend it. Okay.
Did you class on grouting and the different grout substances?
Yeah. Yeah. At some point, yes.
Please think about that.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Do we have any questions in Facebook land? No. Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Was this helpful? Helpful?
Yeah.